This is Space Cat's Peace Turtles, the unofficial podcast for Fantasy Flight's Twilight Imperium. Episode 62,
Holiday Spectacular Preamble!
Music by Ben Prunty, featuring Matt Martins and Hunter Donaldson. That was almost like a Halloween thing at first.
Yeah.
And then it was like...
You're supposed to be Santa.
Then it was like a 90s, I don't know, like announcer.
Oh, yeah, it was like...
What show is that?
Oh, like...
Holiday Spectacular!
What would
Preamble!
Honestly, that sounds like the voice from America's Funniest Home Videos.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. America's Funniest Home Videos! And he would have like witty things that they would go out on. Like he would say something like, "This next one's gonna get wet and wild."
I miss. Okay, here's a question: favorite America? Give me your favorite America's Funniest Home Video host. There's only two that matter: Tom Bergeron or Bob Saget.
Well, it's definitely gonna be Bob Saget.
Bob Saget was all about doing character voices, and like being it. He was a part of the scene.
He would Mystery Science Theater.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Tom Bergeron was more about like a goofy narration joke on top of it.
Oh, you know what? Tom Bergeron though, because he would just really get you into the bit really fast. he would really.
I just want to point out that your sentence there was, "Oh, but you know what? Tom Bergeron though."
Yeah, no, actually, I am going to change it to Tom. I went with Bob Saget just out of fear because I couldn't remember Tom's deal. Spiel.
His thing was good.
But yeah, no, his thing was so much tighter than what Bob would do.
And then for a while there was like a young guy and a girl that did it together.
Yeah,
and everyone lives to forget.
Well, there's no place for America's Funniest Home Videos anymore because we just have YouTube.
Right.
So where was that supposed to go?
Right.
Like
it became Vine.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Now we watch Vine compilations.
Yeah, now we've got like Hey Mr. Bubs. You know, we don't need. Oh, also, since it's the end of the year, it is appropriate to do this. Hey, Mr. Bubs is my favorite viral video of the year. Yeah. And I would like anybody that has not seen...
Just Google Hey, Mr. Bubs.
Hey, Mr. Bubs! Check it out. It's very funny. It's a dog one. It's a dog one. So you know you're going to like it. If you don't like what you've heard of it, it is a dog one.
Hunter, the energy of this podcast is completely different when we're in the same room. We dove right into this,
and we were excited to do it.
We were excited to dive into this.
It's so weird that that last not to show you guys how the sausage is made, but that last episode was quite popular as far as downloads. Like people were really into it,
right?
Which is wild to me because I was not in the mood to do it at all. So I guess my performance really does not matter too much as far as the quality of the show.
It may specifically hinder that's the show.
Yeah, how many people have tuned out by this point?
We're 4 minutes into this recording, and you know when back when we were both in Portland, we had a solid 2-minute rule of when the number hits 2 minutes, we're ready to get out.
We're done.
But boy, do we break that rule now.
Well, okay, so a couple things. We are in the same room.
Hi, Hunter.
Hi, Matt.
Welcome to my house.
Hello. And that's because I'm back in Arkansas because it's holiday time and I'm here to see my family. And I'm going to be here for a while, too. I'm taking a 3-week family vacay to work on a lot of stuff. Yeah. And really what we're going to talk about today is one of the things that I'm here to work on, which is, of course, the second annual
Holiday Spectacular!
Yeah, that. And so we're going to do that. That's coming up. That's going to be on, what's the date?
Sunday. Wait.
The 23rd.
Yeah. I for a moment, I was like, wait, is this episode going to be out before? But I forgot for a moment that this episode is late.
This episode is late.
This episode will be posted as soon as we're done recording it and I edit it. So, yeah. But, yeah, Sunday, the 23rd. You know, I haven't even been giving it like an exact start time. Like, we're going to be setting up, and I'm hoping to kick the thing off at 10 a.m., we're going to go over kind of everything with that. Today's episode is all about that spectacular because we want to start ramping it up. We want to get people excited. We want people to tune in, and there's just really specific things that happen with streamed games for us. And I know a lot of people don't tune in for streams because they are like I was a little over a year ago, which was like, why would I want to sit down and watch an entire stream of Twilight Imperium.
Right. Why would you? Why would you?
So we're going to answer that question today of why would you do that.
But before we get to that stuff, I want to say that so you might be thinking like, oh man, why are you guys spending a whole episode getting us ready for the Holiday Spectacular? It's going to be a little bit different this year. Last year, it was basically just us trying to figure out streaming in general, and it was in a dining room.
Yeah.
And this time
and it was one shot the whole time.
Right.
I mean, we didn't have the stuff. We've already improved streams from the first Holiday Spectacular. The first Holiday Spectacular was literally just the first stream we've ever done.
Right.
And now we're trying to establish the Holiday Spectacular as a thing. I mean, it's a spectacular. We plan to do this every year. Right. Our friends come into town. We're doing a spectacular. We're going crazy with TI.
And honestly, the thing I'm most excited about is the location. Because it's not in a dining room this time. No. Where are we going to be recording this time, Matt?
So I have a cool job these days, and I work at a movie studio. And we have a 4,000 square foot soundstage with a 40 foot by 45 foot by 20 foot cyclorama wall. And if
just
you don't know
enough
what that
room.
Means, just enough room for TI. 4,000 square feet.
Finally, the space to play the game.
No, but it's a cool studio, and because I work there, I can use it. And we're gonna do a stream in there, so you will see a market, like a definitive difference between previous streams and how this one should look. I mean, we're planning to get it set up beforehand, and I think it's going to look really good, and it's going to be a cool feel.
Right.
And we can change it in the future. I don't think I'm committing to a green screen this year, but next year's Holiday Spectacular, very realistically, we will maybe be in outer space. We can be or we'll be on a train, or we'll be inside Hunter's stomach, or whatever. It doesn't matter, because we just got a 20 foot by 30 foot green screen. So
oh my god,
we can do whatever.
I'm sad that you didn't put it up, because I do.
Well, I have 2 days to put it up.
Right.
I probably will.
Oh,
but we'll see. I don't know if I'll probably put it up, and I don't know if it'll be on the stream. Anyways, suffice it to say, we're hoping to up the production value of this stream quite a lot.
Yeah.
And we want people to check it out. We're doing these streams because we want them to be watched, not because we just want to turn on a stream while we play TI. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is like why we do these streams and why we want you to tune in, and what we hope you will see is different when we stream these games compared to like maybe what your expectations are. Because I mean, we don't get huge numbers on these streams. We had on our 100,000 stream, our 100,000th download episode stream, we had a decent numbers at first, but even that was like max of like 60 to 80 or something like that. Like, it's not a lot of people in these streams compared to like who listens to the podcast. And I want to change that. I want to keep seeing that grow, because I think it is worth hanging out with us.
Right. Think of it we're gonna do a lot of stuff that's worth watching. Now, before we go any further, I just want to say, because if the goal of this is to get people to listen or to watch it, when, where, how do they do it? Just right.
It'll
here
be
at the
on
top.
twitch.tv/SpaceCatsPeaceTurtles. It'll be on our official. We have a Twitch. We stopped streaming on YouTube. Twitch is a little bit easier to manage, and it's just more active of a stream community, and it's whatever.
Yeah.
We do it on Twitch. We will upload it to YouTube immediately after, so if you aren't able to tune in live, you will still get to watch everything. But it will be on twitch.tv/SpaceCatsPeaceTurtles. It'll be probably starting at like 10 a.m. Now, here's the key difference is we're going to play 2 games in this Holiday Spectacular. Last year we played 3 total games. 2 we played before the stream started, and they were playing side by side, and then we played our big stream game. This year we're going to play 2 games on stream back to back. The first one is going to be just us playing TI. In fact, I may not even playing. I may be moderating. We're probably going to do a sort of. We might basically play a tournament game.
Right, a tournament test run. I mean, I'm going to push that for that.
Right.
We haven't confirmed with all the players that they're cool with that. I bet they will.
Yeah.
So it will just be like a tournament run.
It'll be on the tournament map. We'll be using the tournament drafting rules. I'll be moderating the game and also, managing chat and everything like that. But the key with that one is for you early risers who want to join us at 10 a.m. and hang out with that game. That game's a little bit more for us because we want to play a normal game with our buddies.
Right.
And so we're not doing all the kooky business that we're going to describe.
Which some people don't like the kooky business.
Some people don't like the kooky
business.
So if you want to just see a straight game, 10 a.m., and I'm thinking we're going to cut off that game by 4 p.m. And we're going to start the weirdo game at 4 p.m. And the 4 p.m. game is the one I really want you to tune into. And I should note 4 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Right.
4 p.m. Standard. I don't know what that is in UTC off the top of my head, but it's
something.
It's something. It is a time in UTC.
All right. So yeah, that's how you would watch it. That's when you would watch it.
And so the first game is standard. So let's talk about what is actually going to be in the Holiday Spectacular and what we're trying to do with more of our streams in general if you've never tuned into one. And to do that, I want to take a step back. We've talked before about like why and how we started the show. We're not doing that right now, but I did want to talk about like what Twilight Imperium content looked like to me when I was wanting to start doing TI content, and like what sort of things we've been gearing towards for a long time, which was before our show and before we started trying to make stuff. There were a few really great videos out there, the main one being Shut Up and Sit Downs. They did like a documentary style playthrough, and it was, it's like a 40-minute, hour-long video or something like that.
It's funny,
and it's of one game, and you get on camera, you get little
very
diary
little strategy, but you get like kind of really good overall.
Yeah.
If you guys haven't seen that, you should check it out.
Yeah.
It doesn't have very much. There's not a lot of theoretical meat to it.
No.
In fact, I think they made it with an understanding that like, we don't want to turn off people that don't already know how to play.
Yeah, it's all theme,
but it's very funny and it's good. And I think a lot of games actually play out very similar to the way that Shut Up and Sit Down.
And it's partly what got us into wanting to do even more with our TI games. Is like, oh man, we want to make that too. We really want to make something like that. So we tried to make our own videos, and for a while I was actually kind of adamantly opposed to doing streams at all.
Right.
Because my opinion was, why would anyone want to watch a stream for 6 hours of us just playing the game? Yeah. And last year's Holiday Spectacular was essentially that. And we even got people hanging out, and it turned out to be incredibly fun to have interaction the whole game. We basically had a peanut gallery of people making fun of us and chastising our bad play, but then also cheering along with us when crazy things would happen. And it was just like super crazy fun to do it as a stream that like I did a 180 turn on like how I felt about doing streams. But I knew that we had to do our streams different than everything else I'd seen. Like outside of Shut Up and Sit Down, it's a lot of on YouTube, there used to be a lot of like Twilight Imperium time-lapse videos of just, I set up a time-lapse camera and you can see the video. But you miss out on a lot of... That's not what Twilight Imperium is. That's how, like, you could watch a time-lapse of a Risk game and understand what happened in that Risk game. That's a good point. But Twilight Imperium, you miss out on...
You wouldn't even be able to tell who won, really.
Yeah, you wouldn't even be able to tell who won. You just see the ships moving around on the map, and it doesn't do it really any justice. So going into it, I knew it's like, well, it shouldn't just be a time lapse.
Not to say, wait, I just want to say, I want to throw this out there though. Not to say that those of you that may have thrown up time lapses,
no, because there's a place for that, and I still to this day turn on a time lapse every once in a while just to kind of like scrub through it. But like, you don't sit down and watch.
It's a differend type
all
of
that.
thing.
You're digesting a different type of material. You're not there to invest in a game. You're there to like, let me check out kind of how this thing went down. And since TI4 was released, more and more people, and because when TI3 was out, creating content was more difficult in general.
For sure.
And so with TI4, we see more people making stuff. I know there's plenty of people who make, game overviews, and they show all their photos from their game, or they'll take shots of their game, and they'll give you like an overview of everything that happened. It's basically a play of the week, but in like a 10-minute video form, which I think are great. They're super fun to watch. We are, with like our Gen Con video, we're aiming for something sort of in between that, a little bit longer than 10 minutes, but not the entire
not every single
game
thing that happened.
Uncut. But with streams, how do we make a stream engaging? Kept being the question of like, well, we might as well do the stream because it's very easy to, if we're going to record the game, it's easy to also just stream it at the same time.
Right.
So why not stream it? And so from the beginning of our streams, what we've always tried to ensure is a few things. The first being, you should always be able to tune in to our stream at any moment, and within a minute of like looking at the screen and digesting all the information that we have up, you should understand where the game is at that moment. That's like my number one goal. We have an overlay in our bottom left corner right now, and it's just like, you should tune in and be able to see, this person's in the lead, and this is why, and this is how their game is going, and I can kind of tell that either they're stalling out and they might have trouble actually getting a victory, or holy cow, this person's running away with it, or whatever. Like, you should be able to glean all of that information without having to get into chat and ask, hey, what's been going on for the past 30 minutes, because I've had that happen with other, I've seen other people do streams, and this isn't to even dog them, because we were certainly not the
really
first.
Hard.
It's really, really hard, and we were not the first people to do it, and a lot of ideas that we gained were based on other people's streams. People have been experimenting with these streams and different overlays for a while now, and so other streams I was seeing, the number one thing that I was feeling like was lacking was I would tune into the stream, but if I tuned out for an hour and then came back in, I would have to just get into chat to figure out what had been going on the past hour. So we're trying to develop something where it's like you can jump in and get a decent idea of where the game is right now.
Right.
So there's two big factors with that. We have the map visible at all times.
Right.
We have an overhead camera that shows the map. This is getting into some nitty-gritty stuff, but the more important thing is we have an overlay that shows you the entire objective outlook of the game. We show you every objective that's been scored, who scored it, how many points they have. So if you've never tuned into our stream, know that when you tune in, like, you'll be able to see everything that's been scored and what's available to be scored,
right,
and where the game could potentially go from there. And I think usually you can look at our overlay that's in the lower thirds, and you should just know where this game is and where it's headed.
Right. I mean, and it has everything on it almost to a fault, but we would rather have everything than, like, because there's really no way to condense the information.
I mean, realistically, it is just a big Excel spreadsheet in the bottom left of
with
our
every
thing.
Single victory
with
point,
every victory
secret
point.
Objective, everything is there.
Right.
And it's scored and color coded. So yeah, you can look into that screen. It's a lot of information, but if you look at it, you should have an idea of, like, exactly where the game is. So if you are, if you jump into this, if you're like, oh, I'm not going to watch you play Twilight Imperium for 12 hours, you dinguses.
Right, that's insane.
But I could pop in. We want you to know that if you pop in, we feel it's pretty likely that you're going to be able to figure out exactly where we're at in the game.
Right. So, Hunter, talk a little bit about how we're trying to also up the engagement, because it's one thing to, like, I feel like what we've been describing so far is for the people who truly care about, like, experiencing a TI game.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't get to play as often as I would like, but I can watch this game and kind of get that vibe.
Right.
But more so than just seeing the points get scored, I think there's an attitude that our streams have, and I think I don't know. Give some of the details of, like, how we try to engage.
Well, so for Sunday, that first game, like we said, is going to be pretty straight up vanilla game, and it's for all of those people that like that. And as far as engagement goes, I mean, there will be someone on hand to talk, to watch chat, and to hang out. But there's not the engagement isn't getting really more. There's not more depth to it than that. But however, when we start playing the second game, the Goofy game, we have so many like little weird stream rituals that have kind of,
I mean, it's really a bunch of house rules is what it's turned into.
Right.
It's a bunch of annoying, convoluted house rules that we have, but it's because it's all these things that have helped us, I don't know, keep everybody engaged.
The most basic thing we can say is that the map that we're going to be playing on in the Goofy game was made by Imac We Trust with assistance from the Steve Martin fan club.
Yeah.
And it is, well, as it stands right now, it is super buck wild to a point where I think it might be a bloodbath.
I don't have it's going to be a bloodbath. I don't have his final draft, but I know it's a 3-galaxy map, which actually isn't the most foreign thing in TI. There were official 3-galaxy maps in TI 3,
right,
like released by Fantasy Flight. But what that means is, if you've never seen a 3-galaxy map, on our map there will be 3 players on one galaxy. Imagine the normal TI galaxy, but with one ring removed. Mm-hmm. And in the center of that galaxy is an alpha wormhole. And then there's a second galaxy, same setup. In the center of that is a beta wormhole. And then in between those two galaxies is a teeny tiny little galaxy with Mechatol Rex at the center, and the other end of the alpha and the other end of the beta is in that center galaxy.
Right.
So the only way to get to Mechatol Rex is to fight through the wormhole and then get into the center galaxy. And in this particular map, all of the home systems are adjacent to that wormhole and 2 spaces away from each other home system,
which I think might be the part. Like, I don't know if that should be final. I don't know if that should be final.
It's really scary because there are certain. I mean, ghosts could just take someone's home system turn one.
Yeah, I mean,
if they want to.
It's gonna be like we all have the Van Hog, basically.
Yeah,
it's gonna be like everyone has a gun on the table all the time, basically.
Now, to counterbalance this absolute madness, we have lots more madness. So don't like. It's not like there's just this ridiculous map and we're expected to play on it, and obviously some factions are going to be amazing at it, and so they're going to crush the whole game, and it will be a boring game. It will not be a boring game because there will be many things that you, the audience, can do to get in the way of a potential ghost player's plans.
This is a really good time to say that if for some reason you want to jump into the Steve Martin fan club last minute, you can still vote on what factions we will be playing in that game.
We are not going to be picking our factions for that game. We will be, once we have 6 available factions, the 6 players will pick which faction they want to play, but of the 6 factions that are available, those will be decided by the Steve Martin fan club. So you've got a couple days to get in there and get your votes.
And I might ask the club what they want me to play most of all, because honestly,
I probably will.
They're all
they're all weird.
Yeah, all the factions that are up at the top. I feel like I would like to play any of them, but it's a weird collection of factions altogether.
Yeah.
As far as the leaders,
it feels similar to our first stream outside of the Holiday Spectacular, because the first Holiday Spectacular we picked the factions we wanted to play.
Right, we just played whatever we
It was
wanted.
only our 4th game of TI or something. Like, we had barely been playing the game. But our first real stream where we were getting better at it, we let everyone decide, and we got, I mean, it was what you would expect. It was Winu and Muwat and Sardak and Ghosts, and it was garbage. It was all terrible factions, but it made for a really compelling game, which is why we decided to continue putting these sorts of elements into the audience's hand, because it's fun when things are terrible for us.
Yeah.
Speaking of terrible for us, the next big rule change that we have is something we call audience agendas. And these have been actually kind of confusing to explain to people in the past, because they're not agendas in the proper sense of how you should be thinking about agendas, because audience agendas, the players in the game do not vote on them.
Not at all.
So they can't follow the same structure of a typical agenda, because there's no Necro doesn't get to put a vote towards anything. You don't play writers on audience agendas, and there's also no outcome. You know how there's some agendas that are specific to, like, if you voted for this, you're gonna gain something.
Right? They can't be like
they
that.
Can't be that, because
well,
the players
and also
won't vote for
there
them.
should be no against, no effect, because why?
Yeah,
basically.
right. And especially, it should never be something. Audience agendas are never. This will definitely benefit so-and-so, and this might just kind of help everybody. No, an audience agenda should be either this terrible, crazy, insane, stupid thing is going to happen, or this other terrible, crazy, insane, stupid thing.
What's been your favorite audience agenda that we've had in our streams thus far? Just to give people a taste. That actually hit the table. Cosmic Disaster, I think, is the easiest one to explain to people.
Yeah, go ahead.
Cosmic Disaster was, I don't know who wrote it. I wish we had that in front of me.
I don't have it.
But whoever wrote it, thank you, because it's elegant in how much it messes things up. So essentially, Cosmic Disaster, the audience votes on 2 what are they called? Anomalies. 2 anomalies, and they switch places. Very frequently, it's like the supernova and the gravity rift.
Right. But it's worth noting, all of the ships go with the tile.
Yeah.
So if it goes across the map, if Muwat was for some reason parked in a war sun, and that war sun travels to the other side of the galaxy, goodbye. It goes with it.
Right.
And there's a few different agendas that are like that. I know there's one where your home system and Mechatol Rex are going to get swapped.
Oh wow!
And that we've got ones where people's entire action cards hands get passed to the left or the right. It's truly stupid stuff that breaks the game. It's hard to have an actual good strategy when we're playing in these. So audience agendas are these crazy things, and what we do is we post them. There's 2 timing windows for audience agendas. One, we don't start audience agendas until the agenda phase kicks off. Or at least that's how we started doing it. And while we're voting on our 2 in-game agendas, at the beginning of the agenda phase, we read the content of an audience agenda, we post a straw poll in the chat, and the chat votes on that thing. And the votes continue until the end of our agenda phase. As soon as our agenda phase is over, we reveal the winner of the straw poll, and we put its effect in place.
Right.
The other timing window that we've come up with is a lot more terrifying to me, and it's because the first time we did audience agendas, we only got like 3 in the whole game before the game was over.
And there should be more.
And there should be more. It's too much. When there's only 3, it feels like one person got completely hosed and got knocked out of the game because of it. And then that was it. Nobody else got hit very hard.
Well, yeah, because the audience will always pick someone to hose, and that someone is going to be either me or
exactly.
you. Yeah. But there won't be enough time to course correct, like if we do it that way.
Yeah. But if we do lots and lots of audience agendas, then we kind of save ourselves by hurting ourselves.
Exactly.
So the new timing, the second timing window for audience agendas is during the strategy phase, before anyone has picked strategy cards, we roll an 8-sided die. Whatever number gets hit, that strategy card is now the timing window of the next agenda, the next audience agenda. So if we roll a 5, if someone picks trade, when they play trade, time to vote on an audience agenda. Now, that does 2 things. One, it means the timing of an audience agenda has a lot of variance to it, which is the way old agendas were in TI3. They were tied to politics. And the second thing it does is it incentivizes people to pick a strategy card they may not have otherwise picked. If construction is the one that gets the audience agenda attached to it, someone who's in last place might be like, you know what? It's time to shake things up. I'm just going to take construction. I don't need construction at all, but I'm going to pick it because I want to pick when I launch that audience agenda.
Oh, for sure.
Effect.
I wanted to ask though, are we going to stick to the Mechatol Rex thing? Like we don't start doing audience agendas until we start.
No, we'll do the strategy card audience agendas along with first round. Yeah, we'll do it first round. We won't start agenda phase audience agendas until
an agenda.
And I don't know why. It's arbitrary, but it's just because I don't have enough time to do another agenda during the status phase. Yeah. It's very hard to manage these agendas because there's a lot of typing up polls and then posting the poll, and you know, you get it. But it adds enough to the game that it's worth doing, but I can only do so much of it and also play the board game at the same time. One thing, if you've tuned into old streams, you may have heard of the Cult of Clancy. In our last game, I think it was the Cult of Chris, the Cult of Ryan. We're not doing the Cult anymore. We're done with the Cult. The Cult doesn't work. If you ever did tune into a stream with a Cult, we had one player who, on our Discord channel, we had a separate channel that all of our players didn't have access to. And you could tune into the game and you could help our player. And it was usually someone who is a little bit newer to the game. In Portland, it was our friend Clancy. And you could help them play. But what it kind of ended up doing is it meant that the audience, who already is actively playing against myself and Hunter, well, now they have a vessel through which to do that. And it's not actually in a fun way. It kind of ruined, especially when we do audience agendas, what always happened is every audience agenda that had a favorable outcome for one player would go to the player that the audience was playing at. The Cult would always win. And that ended up being just not especially interesting. And secondly, it kind of ruins the game for the person who's the head of the Cult, because they spend the entire game looking at their phone, reading the Cult's suggestions and advice.
And sometimes getting berated for
not following their advice. And just in general, it actually started to become a little bit too toxic of an environment for that person to be playing, and they're not engaging in the politicking above the table with all the players. They're just in their phone the whole time, and it doesn't look good on stream, and it doesn't feel good to play as. You just kind of lose interest a lot quicker. So we're done with the Cult. Maybe we'll in the future come up with a new way to implement the audience gets to play as a player, but that's later on down the road.
I know this is super indulgent and nobody cares, but for the 2 people that maybe do care, who are we going to see in the Holiday Spectacular this year? Because it's a bit of a rematch for some of us.
It's a bit of a rematch. As of right now, and I'm pretty sure the scheduling will hold, it's obviously the 2 of us. Sean O'Connor,
who, if you remember in the last Holiday Spectacular, needed 4 trade goods.
And almost threw his entire game to get it.
Well, in fact, I mean, I would argue that he threw both of our games in order to get it.
EJ will be there. EJ spent the last Holiday Spectacular as Soul. Was he Soul?
He was extra.
And he had a hard time. He had the extra problem.
He had the extra problem.
He did it the weird way. He got a huge lead early and then completely stagnated the rest of the game and couldn't find points anywhere else. So that's 4. 5 is Chris Rogers?
Chris Rogers, who was in the last stream, but not in the Holiday Spectacular last year.
But Chris is a good player. He's a fun Muwat. That's always been my favorite position for Chris, is when he plays Muwat, things get fun.
Yeah. And then last and certainly least.
And absolutely least is Connor Smith.
Confusing legal text Smith.
So we have to let him regain his honor by making up for his horrible mistake last holiday stream that caused me to completely go into a salt storm.
Created the best head desk I've ever seen in my life. And
was that a head desk moment?
Yeah, I've done lots of
head desks, but yeah.
No, you
I head desk after
that. That was when you head desked really bad. Okay. Like it was a big head desk. Actually, no, it wasn't as big as that wood.
No,
oh man, you've done so many.
I've done so many, and I have to stop. I need to remember my children when I'm old.
Oh,
so
no,
I think the head desks are going to start when my wife sees the Twitch clips. She's not a big fan of the head desks.
They want a head desk. You know they want one. They want one.
Let's talk about the last big rule, and this is a new one that we're adding. We actually just came up with this today, but I love it, and it's something that might grow into something much more terrifying in the future. We're going to do a thing called audience objectives at this holiday stream.
Don't get too excited.
Don't get too excited. We're not there yet. We'll get there, but we're not there yet. Audience objectives are, we're not going to randomly reveal objectives.
Right.
They'll be random to us, the players, but what we're going to do is, over the course of each round, we'll put out another straw. There's lots of voting in our holiday streams. Lots of things for the audience to vote on. Another thing you'll be able to vote on is what the next objective to be revealed is going to be.
Yep.
Now, we'll follow all the rules of objectives. It'll be we'll start the game with 2 stage 1s, and we'll reveal 1 stage 1 each round. But it will not be a random objective. It will be decided on whatever you, the viewers, want the objectives to be. So it's important then, obviously, for you to be able to tune into the game, see what's going on, and go, oh, you know what would really be a terrible objective for them all to have to go for right now is this one, and give us that, and especially what I love about it is, my favorite thing about how goofy these like kind of stupid streams are getting is, it becomes less about one player playing really well, and it's more about surviving, and it's just survival of the fittest, and it always checks and balances itself. If someone starts to get away from it, the stream typically the stream just wants everything to happen as long as possible. So they will do whatever it takes to make sure there is no winner.
Right.
Maybe ever.
Right.
And so in this context, if one person is starting to run away with it, you can bet every objective that comes out is certainly not going to be something that's easy for them to accomplish.
Right.
So I very much anticipate the very first stage 2 public objective to be control 5 planets with tech specialties.
Sure.
Because that's just how it's going to work out. And I don't really expect to see any tech objectives, because I don't think people.
But we'll see, and it's up to you,
right?
So and this might it might sound like we're trying to make this sound like this is really crazy. This isn't really that crazy.
No, because it feels crazy in the game when some of these agendas hit, but
you don't get to make up objectives. So like you're really just picking from what's already there.
Yes. Someday in the future, we might let you make
cross
up.
That
we might cross that bridge, but we're not ready for it yet. But just suffice it to say, you'll control what objectives hit the table, and I'm very excited to see how that goes.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, you're gonna want to. I don't know, when are we gonna put out the poll to pick the first 2 for round 1?
I think we'll do it a few hours before the start of that game. So maybe around 2 p.m. Central Standard Time is when the poll to pick the first 2 objectives will come out. That's when we'll cut off the poll for the factions. So we'll say who the factions are on stream during like the first game. We'll say, okay, these are the 6 factions that are going to be in the final Holiday Spectacular game, and then we will immediately open up the poll for the first 2 public objectives.
Yeah. So there's a reason to check out that first game if you have no interest in watching regular TI, which I assume you do have interest in.
I feel like you probably have interest in seeing regular TI.
Right.
But that's it. We as per usual, Hunter and I were like, this is going to be a really quick episode, and
and it wasn't.
We talked for like 50 minutes.
One more thing I want to throw out there. Who are the front runners for the factions in the Goof 'em Up game, the crazy goofball game?
Let's take a look. So currently, and this is why if you disagree with these results, you need to get in the if you are in the Steve Martin fan club and you haven't voted, get on the Discord, or I'll make sure. I'm pretty sure I already posted on the Patreon, but I will post it again on the Patreon. The link to the poll for this vote. But if you're not a Steve Martin fan club member, maybe you want to get in there and influence the vote, because I'll say this much: it's not like it's a huge disparity in numbers of any of these. A couple votes could completely change the tides of who gets played.
Right. Well, I think that top pick is kind of solid.
The top pick is solid, and the top pick currently is the Ghosts of Creus.
Right.
Followed by the Necrovirus, and then Clan of Sar, Arborek, Extra Kingdom, and then there's actually a tie for 6th place with the L1Z1X Mindnet and Sardak Nor. Hunter, as the vice president of the Steve Martin fan club, always reserves the right to break ties.
Right.
So we'll see if that tie holds, but I suspect that the Sardak Nor will pull ahead.
Yeah, I expect that too. If for some reason it doesn't, you know where I stand in that tie.
And the results will be evident.
Right.
But yeah, get in there and get your votes in. I mean, the
let's get Clan of Sar down.
Let's get
Clan of Sar is going to destroy that game. Clan of Sar is going to bust that wide
especially
open.
knowing what the map is going to be more like. Honestly, I mean, Ghosts of Creus are going to be completely stupid insane on that map too, and I wish they would go away, but I'm not going to dictate that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to ban them, but you might want to bump up. I mean, heck, bumping up an Embers of Muwat, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing for Muwat. If they just go and take someone's home system immediately, I don't know what we're going to do if someone gets eliminated in the first 30 minutes of the Holiday Spectacular.
Right, that'll be insane, but I don't see that happening.
No, I don't either.
But if it does happen, that will be funny.
Well, because here's the thing. You could get almost eliminated, and because of the structure of all the other crazy things that happen in this Holiday Spectacular, there actually is a chance that you could come back. Because if you're on the brink of destruction, you can bet that the stream is going to try to help you survive.
That's a good point.
So, I don't know. And honestly, that's something I want to see these streams go to in the future, is even more... I like the idea of our streams to be like, it's like we're playing a game of TI, but there's like a 4-year-old sitting next to the table making up rules for the game as we go and just adding them in randomly.
Right.
I mean, it truly is. We've this term is one we've stopped using as much because I feel bad using it all the time, but our streams truly are Calvin Ball.
Right. For sure.
Just everything goes out the window.
Wait, isn't there an audience objective called Calvin's Ball?
There is. Calvin's Ball is one of the agendas, and I forget what it does, but it's really... They're all great. What we do, I didn't say this earlier, and I'll say it real quick before we jump into the errata, is the audience agendas, we decide in audience which one we're doing. We have a list of 20 that are like the chosen, amazing, holy tier audience agendas, and when we need to reveal a new one, we roll a d20, and we let that pick which one we get hit with. So, and if we roll the same one again later, we'll re-roll. We'll never do the same audience agenda twice.
Right.
So we just keep rolling until we get it.
There's
20 total locked and loaded, ready to go.
Cool. That's awesome. And if you want in the future to pitch more audience agendas, you do that at the Steve Martin Fan Club. That's where you go. Go do that there. All right. Let's talk about our goof 'em ups.
Let's talk about our goof 'em ups.
All right, so we last week we did something very unwise in that we talked real strategy on the show.
Oh no! What a disaster!
How dare we? And I don't know that we messed up, but I will say that we got more than usual errata, I would say.
Sure.
Yeah.
And it's because we were taking stances on things, and there's plenty of people who have different stances.
For sure. And also, I just think it's kind of a contentious subject. The idea of fleets and like composition
and their purpose.
Yeah, it's kind of difficult to pin down, and I think a lot of people have more perspectives on it than I think me or you realized. I think in going into the conversation.
But I've found that to be kind of a good thing, just in terms of like, A, realizing new ways to think about fleets, but B, just knowing all of these things constantly reassure me for the tournament, which is that lots and lots of people think about TI in very different ways.
Yeah.
And that enforces their strategies in different ways. And so plenty of people win a lot based on how they think about fleets, and their vision of fleets could be completely different than you or I, and you and I also win a decent amount. And it's like all roads are valid, basically.
Right.
So I like when we get into these meaty discussions, because it means we see the proof is in the pudding.
Well, I like the all roads are valid thing, because our first piece of errata is from Unaligned Magi, and he almost takes that to an extreme. So his point, essentially, he broke down the percent to hit plus the resource, or divided by the resource value of each unit.
It's what percent can you hit based on the amount of resources that you cost.
Right. So it's like per dollar, how much damage are you getting per dollar? And he broke it down like this. So Destroyer has a 20% chance to hit, right? Divided by one resource equals 0.2 damage per resource. Cruiser has a 40% chance to hit, divided by, it costs 2, which equals 0.2.
Right.
Do you see where this might be going?
They're the same.
Fighter has a 20% chance to hit, and it costs a half a resource per, which equals 0.4, but they can't move on their own. So if you've got 4 fighters,
he pushes the math even further. 1 carrier and 4 fighters is 5 resources.
Right.
0.2 times 5 divided by 5. It ends up being 0.2 again. And the same thing with Warsun. A Warsun is an 80% chance to hit, but you get 3 shots. It costs you 12 resources. Guess what? It's 0.2 again. The only outlier is Dreadnoughts that are 60% divided by 4, which is actually worse than 0.2.
0.15.
So 0.15. So you'd think Dreads are the worst unit, but obviously sustained damage, bombardment, capacity, all of these things kind of end up applying. And the fact that they're not behind a tech, firewall, basically. But in general, the idea to get from all of this is the damage value isn't really even why you buy the units.
It's the utility.
It's the utility of the units. So don't think about, you don't need to think about, well, Dreadnoughts hit better, so I need to spend my resources on Dreadnoughts, because it has nothing to do with that, because you're spending more money.
You're buying that sustained damage and that bombard.
Right. Yeah,
cruisers, you're buying 2 movement.
Right. For fighters, you're buying the fact that you can buy lots of fighters and have a big soaked wall. Unaligned Magi's main point in this actually ended up being because they all have the same percentage to hit per resource. The more you buy, the better, just because you just need to have more of those opportunities to get hits. And I agree with that basically to a certain extent, but at the same time, I just take it to mean the other thing even more. I feel like the biggest takeaway is, do not buy units just because of their battle value. Right. Buy them because of what they're going to do. And also, more importantly, it's about sort of the rock, paper, scissors, which it's more complicated than rock, paper, scissors, but it's like, if your neighbor has lots of fighters, destroyers, upgrade them, etc. And beyond that, it's figuring out what you're going to do with those ships, which leads into our next point, which I think is a really good one by Steiner, which is Dreadnoughts are the most upgradable ship by far. A single Dread is fine, is like we just said, it's actually a worse chance to hit. But a Dreadnought 2 with Duranium armor and plasma scoring, and if you're Barony and non-Euclidean shielding, that's an incredibly resource efficient ship.
Right. And it's doing a lot of different things. It's accomplishing a lot of different goals, which I think, honestly, in this errata, I think this is some of these 2 in particular were definitely things that should have just been included into the episode.
Sure.
But we did not think to say it this way.
Right.
So I think especially Steiner's point, really illuminates why it is that that for us, I feel like we eke out the Dreadnought versus other ships. Right. It's because of the utility of it. It's because of all the different things it can accomplish.
Do a lot with it. It's got capacity. It's got bombardment. You can upgrade that bombardment. In some factions' case, you can. I mean, your capacity is really good with L1Z1X.
It's a jack of all trades.
It's a jack of all trades. You can just do everything you need to with a Dreadnought. Yeah, you pay for it, but you get a lot out of that payment.
Right. All right. So next one is from Revel Doubt, namely, setting your fleet movement up so you can retreat when necessary.
I've copied this in weird.
Oh, okay, I see. Well, so I think Revel Doubt is just saying that this is important. That setting your fleet movement up so you can retreat is very important. So when moving a fleet, if you can afford to leave behind a minor ship, this can give you an out when confronted with annihilation. This may be a role for the humble destroyer or maybe upgraded fighters. And I feel this is 100%.
This is, I think, when we were talking about fleet compositions and what ships' purposes are and what they're trying to do and why you're moving them around the board, this is basically something we didn't mention and we didn't talk about.
Right.
Setting yourselves up for retreat is an incredibly important thing, and it's honestly something I as a player don't do very well, but it's something we saw at Gen Con 2018 quite a bit. I mean, we saw a lot of really wise retreat play and people setting things up so that they could easily retreat.
Right.
Never going into a big attack without having the ability to retreat out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the biggest downfall of your ghost players or your Isarals who jump through stuff. Well, if you jump through that attack, you better have a pretty big plan to win, because if you don't, you're not getting out without a heavy cost.
Right. Yeah, I super agree. Especially
the destroyer point. The fact that it doesn't actually have to be a part of the ending fleet. It's just like no, you built the destroyer so that it could, again, like we said, this is taking it the next step of, okay, we want to have our like perimeter of destroyers to sort of protect ourselves from anybody who doesn't have lightwave deflector, but even more so, we bring those destroyers up to the edge of our field so that they're there when we need to retreat back.
Right. All right, next one is from Groffelmall. Groffelmall, sorry, whoops. Groffelmall. All right, I got it. I think a minor point in the race side of things might be that Jolnar, with their permanent -1 on combat rolls, have the exact opposite incentive system to Sardak. A baseline Jolnar fighter goes from hitting 1 in 5 shots to hitting 1 in 10, whereas a Dreadnought suffers comparatively less. I think if you're playing them, you definitely want to play towards bigger ships rather than trying to swarm. I think it's funny that this point has gone overlooked from us for so long.
Yeah, we've never
talked about
really
Sardak in this way.
Right. It's like they say, it's the opposite problem with Sardak. Sardak wants to build lots of fighters because they can capitalize on the percentage increase that they're getting. And so yeah, Jolnar, for me, if I'm playing as Jolnar, and maybe this is like just subconsciously doing this, you start with a Dread. All I want to do as Jolnar is build more Dreads. I can get to Dreadnought 2 upgrade quickly and easily, and Dreads are decent enough with them, and especially if you're kind of playing more defensively, that's all I ever want to build is like Dreads and cruisers, and also it's another incentive for them to just go for War Suns, because like you're not losing much of a percentage hit chance.
It makes hardly no difference
with War Suns.
Yeah,
so I don't build. This is the other reason ground combat as Jolnar absolutely sucks and it's terrible. And so the same thing goes for, like, you don't see Jolnar get fighter swarms very often.
I will say this though, I feel like the counter to this, like, I feel like Jolnar definitely does not have it as bad as Sardak, in that Jolnar can, with, you know, if they're willing to upgrade, like, fix things like the fighter problem,
right?
And, like, they can bring their fighters back to a regular spot, and that's not that, you know, that's not that crazy for them to do that, nor would it would be like a horrible thing. Because if a Jolnar decided, like, oh, I want to go Carrier 2 and Fighter 2 and just like swarm, it would work,
right? And the fact of the matter is, round 1, like, if Jolnar had the 6 resources available, you could upgrade your fighters and your cruisers immediately. Like, they each require 1 of each color, or what, you know, one green, 1 yellow, 1 red, and 1 blue and 1 green. You could have regular fighters and regular cruisers battle wise immediately,
right?
So
and
you
then
never
also
would suffer
get,
that problem.
like, you know, somebody, I forget who it was, you were showing me something somebody was saying on the Discord earlier about having Carrier 2s, Fighter 2s, and integrated economy, and that sounds like a very easy combo for Jolnar.
Yeah, absolutely. So the having that sort of utility, again, is sort of the key point. If we're not as worried about the battle damage, like we said earlier, and it's more about what am I actually gaining in the ability to do that, if I have integrated economy and Fighter 2 and all this stuff, I'm just constantly refilling my fighter protection shield everywhere I go. I don't need a big fighter swarm, but I'll always have at least 2 fighters with every fleet, no matter what, because I take a planet, I build 2 fighters. Easy, done.
Right.
This last one is from Revenate8, and it is, when discussing Sardak, some said that War Suns get less of a statistical advantage than cheaper units like fighters when utilizing Sardak's +1 ability. Technically, this is false, because all rolls still have a plus 10% chance to hit. In fact, the War Sun gets a 10% chance to hit on 3 die rolls, where a fighter just gets a plus 10% chance on 1 roll. And this is something that I think is worth pointing out with, you know, I don't like getting War Suns as Sardak Nor, especially considering it's so far down your path. Like, how are you really going to...
Yeah, is that really a shot you can call?
Right.
You know?
It's hard to go for, but if again, we've said this with Sardak Nor, if you go with wherever you have the tech skips, because that's just what you should do. So if you're in a red tech skip pie slice, Sardak Nor can go for War Suns. If you're playing Sardak on our tourney map, if you're playing in the slice of the Gashly, War Suns are perfectly within your grasp.
Yeah, go for it.
And yes, it feels dumb to have your hit on a 3 go down to a hit on a 2, because it feels like, well, that's not a significant change. But yeah, the key here is, well, it is still 3 dice, so it's not a 10% chance. The math doesn't work out to where it's a 30% chance increase, I'm sure. I don't know how to do the math there, but it's better than 10%, that's for sure. So a good point to talk about Sardak War Sons. So just do that. Just get War Sons as Sardak.
Just get War Sons.
Yeah, easy.
It's 10% 3 times. That's 30%.
Well, easy. See,
that's what that is. We are welcome to Math Cats.
Good job, Hunter.
10% times 3 equals 30%. You're welcome. You're welcome. Revenate, I did it. I did it, Revenate. I did it.
I hate this.
30%.
I hate this.
That's how it works, right? That's what I said when I read that. I was like, oh, is that 30%? Let's do the rundown. You can hit up our Twitter for game updates and announcements, and you should hit it up and check out. You may double check when we're doing that holiday spectacular, because this is coming up. That's what the whole thing was about, wasn't it? That you just listened to. Facebook, check it out. It's pretty good. You can
good website.
You can talk to everybody on there, and most people are there. And you know what? Guess what? We are too. And check out our page for the show. And send us questions and talk about, you're in your game and you're like, what? How do I do this? And we'll be like, well, Matt will be like, yeah, I know how. Check out the Board Game Geek Guild for discussions. And see if RoboFish, what's up? And knock on us.
There was a really good trend recently where I wasn't posting the episode things anymore, and I basically completely abandoned it. And people were coming in and posting their own episode things and giving really, really good episode descriptions in lieu. I do like our show notes, and that's usually what I post in our things.
Right.
But people started posting their own show notes for our episodes.
I'm learning about this for the first time.
You keep reading. I'm going to pull it up, and I'm going to read some show notes from the board game.
I can't read any.
Oh, you can't read it while I have it pulled up.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead and talk about Twilight Imperium subreddit.
Okay, so yeah, we post every week in the Twilight Imperium subreddit, and that's a really good place to go if you want to submit like a rata, if you think we messed something up or you got your own take. Throw it in there, and maybe you'll see it in the show. Our Discord is also a really good place to go for that same exact purpose, and also you can get a lot of if you're on our Patreon, then you will get a lot of benefits in that Discord as well.
So here's from the 4-player episode. Brian Johnston went ahead and gave us this week 4-player games. Is it the absolute evil bane of Hunter's entire Twilight Imperium existence, or Matt's sugar-coated cupcakes and unicorn-infested magical Christmas land?
Wow, that's good.
So
I am not.
I wish
he ends with a very good thing at the end of the post. It says, "Hope I am not stepping on your toes here, RoboFish."
Well, it's because we're in RoboFish's territory. RoboFish is the one who did this 2 weeks in a row or something like that. This week on SCPT, our hopes look at the swanky new map they've made for the tournament. Astrophysicists the galaxy over wonder why there are always systems spinward of the home systems, and marvel at the synchronicity. Probably the Lazix did it.
Wow. Well, it's check out the Board Game Geek Guild for that. Do you got another? All right. And one thing I wanted to say about the Patreon before moving on. The stream that we're doing this Sunday is a part of the Steve Martin fan club, and if you are interested in getting in on that, go ahead and hit that up. Head to that tier. That's a good one.
One more.
Okay,
this is the last one from RoboFish. This was for episode 57, Developing Skills. In this episode, our heroes decide to assist the less fortunate. The less fortunate being those who have played fewer games of Twilight Imperium 4th Edition, but not those who have played no games of Twilight Imperium 4th Edition. What do you want them to do? Assist the whole human race? All right. Also, not enough nice stuff was said about the Jolnar.
I love that. Yeah. All right. Cool. Very good. Yeah. That was an episode for people that have played at least once, but not too many. It was a baby bear's bowl of porridge situation, which I think is a joke I've already made. But rate us on your podcast app, especially Apple Podcasts / iTunes. Love it. It's good for visibility. I'm a comedian, and I don't really have much to talk about at this point because I'm here in Arkansas. I'm doing a handful of shows, but none of them really important, except for if you want to see me do a lot of time, like 45 minutes.
Way too much.
Which I don't know. I don't know how that's going to happen. then I will be at Black Apple Crossing in Springdale on Saturday, December 22nd.
The day before the stream.
The day before the stream. If you just happen to be in Arkansas for some reason, or you're an Arkansas listener, which most of them I know personally, probably, but maybe not. I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know how many people listen to us
Our
in Arkansas.
Arkansas listeners include myself and EJ.
And they're both coming. But, well, you're here right now, so you're hearing it right now. EJ, please come to the show on Saturday. It's at Black Apple Crossing.
Invited.
Right. So everyone that I know personally, they don't even listen to the show weekly, but, well, maybe some of them do. Whatever, it doesn't matter.
We're moving on.
Let's thank our Patreon.
Yeah, I want to thank our Space Kitties, Jim Bov, Dustin Doom, In Mac We Trust, Frederick Durston, Nathan Swenson, and Yin for Life. I also want to thank Mike, Fowley Flan, and Ian Scott.
Nice. This is a really cool play of the week.
This is a wicked good play of the week.
I'm really excited about
this. This is in top 3 play of the weeks. The one that we freaked out about. I don't remember what the exact play was, but the agenda phase crazy play of the week. That's still top brass.
Yeah.
But this is maybe number 2 play of the week.
Super cool. All right, so this comes in from Adam Lukmani. And the play credit goes to someone named Bondi. Bondi did the play. Okay, so it was a 6-player game using the SCPT tournament map. It was the beginning of round 3, and trouble was brewing in the Big and Tight slice, populated by Arborek. In the previous round, the Federation of Sol, stationed next door in Darien slice, had been pushing aggressively and greedily into Arborek territory, grabbing Quan round 1 using Warfare, and then using the Gravity Rift to snatch an under-defended Starpoint/New Albion in round 2. Arborek was pissed, but the two had negotiated a peace deal. Sol paid his trade agreement and agreed he would withdraw completely from the Arborek slice on the following round, leaving the planets empty. After which, they would both exchange ceasefires and then focus their efforts on scoring. Ending the round with this deal agreed, both were ready to put their differences aside, knowing that a war could bring them both down. Enter the clan of Sar, helmed by Bondi, at the opening of round 3, from the comfort of their chaos-mapped asteroid field, fast and cultured. They play signal jamming on Starpoint New Albion, forcing the Sol player to place a token in the system. Sar commented to the Arborek player, "I didn't think you should let Sol get away with that so lightly." This move locked down the Sol's invading carriers, preventing them from being able to withdraw peacefully. The deal was in tatters. Arborek had no choice. With a grimacing reluctance, Arborek's core fleet tore into the Sol invaders, reclaiming the planet, but shattering any chance of a new peace forming between the two players. With vengeance on his mind, Sol struck back against Arborek, and over the next few rounds, the two players waged a long and terrible war that resulted in both players claiming each other's home systems. Wow. Leaving them exhausted and relegated to the sidelines. Meanwhile, Sar cruised to victory, knowing with complete confidence that his embattled neighbor was completely occupied with the war and posed no threat. With a single action card, Sar had sparked a war that would last the whole game and would drive both Sol and Arborek out of contention.
That is the juiciest. That's truly one play changed the entire scope of the game, and it wasn't a game-winning sorrow. Right. I did this and this and this and this. It was I did this thing, and it had lasting consequences over the entire course of the game and shaped everything else.
It's
from that
the
point
action
forward.
Card equivalent of the Red Wedding in Game of Thrones.
Oh my god!
Literally, yeah. It happened. It was insane, and it pitted people against each other and changed the scope of everything.
Yeah. That's a really. You just did things
and
to my body,
from me.
Hunter.
That came
Hunter.
from me, not from you, not from our Game of Thrones.
Well,
bone.
thank you for doing that to me, Hunter.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm excited for Sunday, and
I'm excited for Sunday. If this was a weird episode to you, I'm sorry, but you're getting 12 hours of content on Sunday.
Yeah, actually, anybody that might be like, "Oh, I didn't," last week you guys were so theory heavy, so strategy heavy. We're gonna play.
We're gonna be pretty strategy heavy for a very long time.
We're literally gonna stream all day.
So
we're starting at 10. It will go probably till midnight.
And I would expect next week's episode to be similar to last year's post-holiday spectacular, where we're just because. If you're looking at your calendar, you'll note that next week's episode happens on Christmas Day, and so no, I will not be recording a new episode on Christmas Eve.
No.
We're playing this game on Christmas Eve. We will record an episode after the long slog of 2 back-to-back games of TI, and whatever comes out of our stupid brains at that point is what the episode is going to be.
And it's not going to be very edited either.
It'll barely be edited, and it will barely be good. Well, it'll be hilarious, I think, but it will not be juicy, strategic material to be done. Oh, uh-oh, my dog is home. We have to go. Bye. Thank you for listening to Space Cat's Peace Turtles, and thanks to Ben Prunty for the use of his music. You can find more at benpruntymusic.com and benprunty.bandcamp.com. Pax Magnifica, Bellum Gloriosum.